Jonah 2, verse 1. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish belly. Let's read through all the verses, all right? And said, I cried by reason of my affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and you heard my voice. For you have cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compass me about. All your billows and your waves pass over me. Then I said, I am cast out of your sight, yet I will look again towards your holy temple. The waters compass me about, even to the soul. The depth closed me round about. The weeds were wrapped about my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet have you brought up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. When my soul faints within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came unto me into your holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. And the Lord spoke unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah onto the dry land. All right, Jonah part 2. Think about what has happened so far. All right? Remember the mariners in the boat? They got saved. But Jonah was still full of self-righteousness. So he got thrown overboard. And then, of course, the fish came and swallowed Jonah. The only fish I know big enough to swallow up a man are one or two different species of whales. All right? So the word whale is never mentioned. But when we finished last week, we said in verse 17, Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. All right? Now, normally 3 days and 3 nights represent death and resurrection. It was time for Jonah, who was very self-righteous, the one prophet, all right, because he gave a prophecy, it came to pass. He became very famous, but then he became very proud. So now, it was time for him to repent, change his mind about who God was, who he was, and then be resurrected as the new man. But let's see whether this really happened. All right, so chapter 2 is to see what is happening once he got swallowed by the fish. He's now in the belly of the fish. All right? The whales have more than one stomach, by the way. All right? So he's somewhere in one of those bellies. And think about the belly, as I said last week. This is a big fish. So it's swallowing all types of, first of all, water, all types of weeds, seaweeds, you know, all types of fishy things, giant squid, everything, including Jonah, into the belly. And in the belly, there are all types of digestive juices, enzymes, you know, and it's all mixed together. It's sour. It's, you know, it's a whole big mess inside there, all right? And Jonah is turning whiter, not because he's getting, you know, anything. He's just getting whiter because the corrosive acids are corroding his skin. So when he comes out, he'll probably be like really white because he's being bleached. All right? You ever put bleach on clothes and suddenly all the clothes turns white? So that's what he's facing inside there. But let's see exactly what is happening. Jonah prayed to the Lord. And everybody says, look, Jonah is turning around. Verse 1, out of the fish belly. Jonah prayed. He said, I cried by reason of my affliction. So he is praying because he is in pain. He is in despair. And he believed that God did this to him. And he heard me out of the belly of hell. He thought he was in the belly of hell because he is in a dark place. He is facing all these corrosive acids which is burning him. And he heard my voice. That's what he said. For you cast me into the deep, in the midst of the sea, and the floods compass me about. The floods are all that water which is coming in through the mouth of the fish. All the billows and the waves pass over me. So if you think about it, he is down in the belly of the fish. Every time the fish opens the mouth, swallowing in more water, more food, more of everything, the waves would come, wash over him, and then when they exceed, it goes all over him the other side. So he is being buffeted about, thrown about in the stomach, even though it's a constricted space, but the water is flowing all about him. So that's his complaint right there. The waters are coming all over me. It's like hell. Verse 4. He says, I am cast out of your sight. I am cast out. Then look at the next line. Yet I will look towards your holy temple. So in the belly of the fish, he is tossed all about, and now he's disoriented because he doesn't know where he is. So he says, I wonder where Jerusalem is. I wonder where the holy temple is. If I were to pray to God, which I'm going to do right now, which direction do I face? Because if I face the wrong way, then God is not going to hear me. So I got to face the right way. But where is the right way? So I'm going to try to figure out, I am going to try to figure out where the holy temple is. If I pray here, is that the holy temple? Oh no, the fish could have turned around. But maybe the fish is swimming north. That means, it could be the temple will be here. If the fish is swimming south, then the temple is on the other side. So where is the fish swimming? So I got to be correct in this before I start my prayers. Oh Lord, what am I supposed to do? But I got to do this. Look at verse 5 again. The waters compass me about. It's all over the place. It's all surrounding me. Even to the soul, even to the depths of me. The depth close me round about. Once in a while, the waters will be above my head. The weeds, what weeds? The seaweed, which the fish swallowed. They'll be all about, and sometimes they will be wrapped around his head so he cannot see. So he's talking about his experience inside the belly of the fish. Next verse. I went down. So first stomach, going down to the second stomach, he's going down. Remember, he was going down. He ran away from God, what God told him to do, and he was going down. He went down to Joppa, down to the ship, down to the bowels of the ship, down to the fish, and the fish is going down to the bottom of the ocean, down, 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 down. The earth, I went down to the bottoms. The earth with her bars was about me. Many people say, I don't understand this. The earth, remember he's down in the belly of the fish? And he says, the earth, because he's thinking he's in hell, it's covered. The earth with her bars was about me. So when he looked up, he saw bars. And people have tried to figure this out. It's very simple. Whenever the fish opens its mouth and he sees the teeth, those are the bars. He looked up, look, and he thinks it's a trap. But think about it. If he is down in the belly of the fish, no, he could survive the enzymes, the acid, the fishy smell. He can survive all of that. But if the fish were to close its mouth for 3 days, 3 nights, there will be no oxygen. Jonah would die. So of course God consistently controlled the fish so that the fish opened its mouth regularly. And whenever he opens his mouth, Jonah will look up and see bars. Because if it's completely dark, he wouldn't see anything. So God kept him alive. The bars was about me. He saw bars. He thought it was a prison, but it was actually for him to breathe. Yet you have brought up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. All right? So we're going to see his prayers very soon. When my soul fainteth within me, that's what he's facing right now, I remembered the Lord. All right? Because he was the prophet. And my prayer came to thee. All right? So now he's going to say, my prayer came to you, God, into your holy temple. I don't know where the temple is right now, but I'll try to figure out which direction it is, because I'm going to start praying. Next verse. Now this is his prayer. And when you read this prayer, you may think, wow, it's a great prayer. Let me tell you what this prayer is. Have you ever gone to church and somebody taught you how to pray? This is the way you should pray. That's what they'll tell you. All right? So here is a book. All right? Here is a book for you. And I also have a book. So now we're going to pray together. You start to read. All right? I read verse 1. You read verse 2. You will read and figure out that you have to read all those things which are called a response. So these prayers are what I call verbatim prayers. You just repeat it. You repeat and you repeat and you repeat it because you know it by heart. You see, after many, many repetitions, you know exactly what to say. It doesn't need to have any meaning because you know this by heart, by rote. You know how to pray these prayers. So these are prayers that you can pray in the temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. What does this have to do with him being in the fish? Nothing. These are about let's say you're praying in the temple. They that observe lying vanities, all those bad people, they observe lying vanities, forsake their own mercy. They will not, God will not be merciful to them. They will be punished. That was how Job prayed. Don't forget, he was the prophet. He loved to be seen in the synagogue. Whoa, look, Jonah, that great prophet. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. Next verse. But I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. What is he thanking God about? He's in the belly of the fish. His head is wrapped with weeds. All right? He thinks he's in hell. You see, these prayers have nothing to do with him and his present condition. This is what he has been taught to do. So now he faces the temple or wherever he thinks the temple is, and he starts to offer up these verbatim prayers. Prayers which he knew by heart, which have no meaning. And look at all. It's all about I. I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. Because that's what you say in the temple. I will sacrifice. I, being a great man, will sacrifice unto you, God, with a voice, the voice of thanksgiving. I will, come on, pay. What is he paying? He's in the belly of the fish. You see, these prayers that he's saying have no meaning whatsoever. I will pay that I have vowed. Yes, in the law, whatever you vow, you must fulfill. So he's going through, he's dying in the belly of the fish, or at least he thinks he's dying, and he is praying all these prayers which he has been taught. I will pay, because I vowed I will pay. I will do this, I will do that, I will do that. So even in the belly of the fish, Jonah is still full of self-righteousness, full of himself. And if he were, wait a second, because something is going to happen, all right? So we'll forget about, you see, he knows salvation is of the Lord, so he knows that. But he is on his own journey of self-righteousness right now. And the next verse. So that was what was happening in the belly of the fish. And now look at the last verse. And the Lord spoke to the fish, not to Jonah. Because Jonah, you see, God cannot stand self-righteous people, because they are so full of themselves, they have no room for God. So God spoke to the fish. And look what happened. It vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. Now, if God were to call Jonah out, the fish would come into the dry land, open its mouth, and Jonah would walk out. That's how God calls people. But this didn't happen. It vomited Jonah out. Now, once again, think about it, all right? So you have all these half-digested fish, squid, seaweed, enzymes, puke, everything together. And all of it came out, you know. In one go, all of this was spewed out. Not just Jonah came out. All of these things came out together. Jonah, bleached skin, holding onto the squid, half digested, tentacles all over the place, covered in seaweed. And out of all of that smell, I mean, the smell was so bad. But the worst smell was the smell of Jonah, because he reeked of self-righteousness. If you were to go there and smell, you know, bad fish, bad this, but Jonah smelled the worst. Because that's how those people smell like to God. Without the fragrance of Jesus, that's how you smell like. Now, if you don't think vomit is that, you see, people like to say, oh, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. You see, anytime you don't understand something from the Bible, you go to another part of the Bible and you read the explanation over there. Because the Bible many times explains itself. So you don't have to use conjecture. You don't have to guess at the meaning of certain things in the Bible, because God actually explains this for you. All right? So turn to me to Proverbs 26, verse 11 and 12. Proverbs 26, 11 and 12. As a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. See you a man wise in his own conceit? That's Jonah right there. There is more hope of a fool than of him. You see, a vomit, look at that. A vomit is a fool returning to his foolishness, his folly. So that's what vomit stands for in the Bible. It is something about, there's something about vomit, you see. Vomit is defined, and it actually is defined in a couple more other places in the Bible, all right? Vomit is always associated with somebody who has fallen. All right? For example, in another part of the Bible in Isaiah, it's like once those people get drunk, they fall down, and then they vomit. So vomit is always associated with somebody like a dog who returns to his vomit. It's not a good thing. So don't say that when Jonah was vomited out of the fish, well, that's a good thing. Look, he is resurrected. Well, actually, at the end, everything becomes clear. But right now, you know, some people still have questions. They say, well, Jonah was resurrected now. 3 days, 3 nights means you got resurrected. But actually, that's what it means. The dog vomits out, that's the fish vomited out, Jonah. Because he is the fool who returns to his folly. God gave him every chance, but he was making up. Where is the holy temple? And these are the prayers I'm going to say. Instead of saying, God, I repent, I change my mind. Man, I'm so stupid. God, save me. And you know what? Everything would have been made right. But that's not what he wanted. So now he was vomited out among all the puke, like a fool who returns to his own foolishness. Okay, chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. And we'll finish right there. Jonah chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. All right, so now he's vomited out. He's still full of self-righteousness, self-indignation. How could this happen to me? I am such a great prophet. What is all this? And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise. Same words. Go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it the preaching that I bid you. Same words which God asked from him last time. Now, the last time Jonah didn't want to go, right? The reason will come later on. All the reasons are given. But Jonah didn't want to go, right? Jonah went the opposite way, down. Now comes the same words. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach to them. If you were Jonah, what happened last time when you didn't want to go? Remember the law? If you don't do, you're going to get punished. So what do you think Jonah would do this time? Look, you know what happened last time? If you were Jonah, what do you think you will do now? Even though you don't like this test, and there's a reason for it, all right? And Jonah knew the reason, but he still didn't want to do it. But what do you think? You will go just to avoid punishment because you don't want to go through this again. So you see, in verse 3, which we'll continue next week, he went. So many people say, look, Jonah now obeyed God. No. If he obeyed God, all the verses and whatever comes in chapter 4 will have a completely different tone. Jonah went not because he wanted or oh, thank you, I'm a changed person, I'm a new man, now I go and do whatever God asked me to do. No, he went to avoid punishment now. He still didn't agree with God. He didn't want to go. He's in complete rebellion because of something that's going to come. But he doesn't agree with God. That is for sure. Now, Nineveh, that great city. Until today, Nineveh appears in the news all the time. The latest was when ISIS blew up the Nineveh temples and so on. It's right in the news. as I told you last week, Nineveh went from a great city to being the capital of the Assyrian Empire. Because something is going to happen there. And they conquered many, many lands. By the end, they forgot about God and they got conquered as well. By the way, there are still Assyrians living right to this day. And I think most of them are Christians. A very old type of Christianity, but they're all Christians. And you're going to discover that next week. They live now in, I think, northern Iraq, some parts of Turkey, a little bit of Syria, around there. Not many of them left, all right? But these are the Assyrians of today, from that time. All right, we're not going to go into the history of Nineveh and so on because it's a very long history. Very, very illustrious history. All right, very well documented. You will see all the names from the Bible in the 2 Kings in the museums. If you go and visit museums, you will see all of it there. So this is a very well documented historical account. All right? So we will do that next week, continue on with chapter 3 and try to finish up chapter 4 as well. Amen?